We're not going to take our eye off of a very important story. Norfolk Southern, the CEO was called to testify before the Senate and gave some totally ridiculous answers. It was at the same time that bipartisan railway safety bill is now being considered before the bigger chamber. So as we can recall, it was endorsed by bipartisan members, both by the Ohio delegation, the Pennsylvania delegation, as well as some other Republican senators. Now, the bill has been endorsed by President Biden. It remains to be seen whether it can garner enough Republican support. And it was in that vein that Senator J.D. Vance of Ohio actually gave testimony geared specifically towards Republicans who had the idea that regulating Norfolk Southern even more might violate free market principles. Here's what he had to say.
Now we are faced with a choice. With this legislation and how we respond to this crisis, do we do the bidding of a massive industry that is in bed with big government, or do we do the bidding of the people who elected us to the Senate and to the Congress in the first place? I believe that we are the party of working people, but it's time to be the party of working people. We have a choice. Are we for big business and big government, or are we for the people of East Palestine? It's a time for choosing. Let's make the right one.
So there were a couple of important things that he said there. Time for choosing, for most people are not going to know, but it's a very famous, actually, Ronald Reagan speech that he gave. I believe it was like 1964. It was after I think it was during the Barry Goldwater run. And he said, this is a time for choosing. Like, are we going to be mealy-mouthed Eisenhower Republicans, or are we going to be hardcore Goldwater? So that was kind of an interesting, for people who know that was a real turn of phrase.
Yeah,
the second part, which is very important, was that was geared specifically towards going after the people who justify cronyism under free market concerns. As what's his name? Troy Nehls, he's the House Transportation Committee ranking member or I believe the chairman, the Republican side, who said, well, hold on a second. We don't know if we need more regulation here.
Right.
And as, he pointed out in his testimony, he's like, we bailed out their union support. We have deregulated this industry. It is one of the most in-bed industries outside of like aviation and apparently banking that the government is totally involved in. So the idea that we don't get to set proper safety standards is outrageous. Of course we do.
Yeah. Well, it's been quite a month in terms of recognizing the importance of intelligent regulation and the detriment of political capture and corruption. And, I was skeptical of J.D. Vance's initial comments. Took a while to come on East Palestine. He went on Tucker and he was more fixated on like, oh, this is about wokeism, et cetera. In terms of the bill, in terms of what he's saying here, this is right on the money. And it's very exciting. It's very encouraging to think that there could be this kind of bipartisan collaboration. This could have implications for the banking system as well as we move forward and say, okay, what is this new world that we live in? What does it look like and what should it look like? Hey, is there a role here for someone who's willing to speak these kinds of truths to partner with Democrats, even if it is in, a limited way as it has been thus far? So it's really interesting to see. And there's a real fight brewing within the Republican Party over whether they can actually stand for a different approach on economics, or whether it just all ultimately collapses into culture war as it has been mostly over the past number of years.
I would hope not. I mean, the fact, though, that Senator Fetterman, whoever his staff signed on, that you had the Democratic members from Pennsylvania, the Bob Casey sign on, that Sherrod Brown. I mean, these are serious people who are interested in it. The President Biden endorsing the legislation. I mean, you don't see that all that often, and especially one spearheaded. The real question, again, is going to be those Republican lawmakers. But then the secondary question is, are these actual CEOs, these executives, the people responsible for this, are they going to pay? And are they actually going to get held responsible here? Because by the way, it's been, more than a month now, almost since this derailment. What is going on? I mean, do we know what the toxic levels are?
No, we
don't. In water, are people dead or not? I mean, can we trace like poisoning of these pets now officially? Like, just think about look at what happened with the banking system and look at this. Like these people totally, almost basically forgotten by financial media and many others.
Yeah, listen, I tweeted this, but I'll say it here as well. Whatever you think of the SVB bailout, it took a weekend for effectively wealthy venture capitalists to get their insta-bailout from the government. And people in East Palestine still do not have a real answer about whether they and their kids have been poisoned, whether they're going to face elevated cancer risk down the road, whether they can go back to their homes, which values of which are now completely decimated, no bailout for them on the way. So it shows you once again when the government wants to act and when it involves wealthy, influential people, well, hey, it just takes a weekend and we've got, trillions of dollars effectively backstopping the entire system. When it comes to people who are less politically important, less connected, less well off, well, it's a month down the road. And the best that they've done, and this is outrageous to me, they are now finally, the EPA is like, oh, maybe we should test for dioxins, which are incredibly toxic and linger and have known incredibly detrimental impacts. They're finally now testing for it. But they're still asking Norfolk Southern to spearhead the testing. The polluters themselves. It's absolute insane. I can't even wrap my head around it. So it's a clear contrast in response and in care and concern from our government on both sides of the aisle towards, the way the banking sector was handled and the way these people in East Palestine have been dealt with.
Yeah, I think you're very right. Senator Bernie Sanders also shredded the CEO in testimony, did a great job. Let's take a listen.
Norfolk Southern provided $10 billion in stock buybacks recently. Can you tell the American people and your employees right now that in order to improve morale in your workforce, that you will guarantee at least 7 paid sick days to the 15,000 workers you employ?
Senator, with our latest agreement with our employees, which included a historic 24% wage increase and access to premium health care benefits, we immediately pivoted to talking to each of our local...
I've been deeply involved. I introduced the amendment on the floor. I know the issue.
Senator, I share your focus on our employees. I will commit to continuing to discuss with them important quality of life issues with our local craft colleagues.
In all due respect, you sound like a politician here, Mr. Shaw.
So will not say that he will increase paid sick leave. Right. This, of course, was the central issue in terms of rail workers threatening strike that was ultimately crushed by Biden and the Democrats and in combination with the Republicans. So, Senator Sanders still saying, hey, listen, you all are profitable beyond belief. You have plenty of money floating around to dole out to your executives and to your shareholders through stock buybacks, which, by the way, should be banned and illegal. How about you use this opportunity to provide 7 paid sick days to your workers? Is that too much to ask? And of course, the CEO has nothing to say, will not commit to it.
No, and I think this one is just like the banking system. So corporate corruption, a real key theme of the show here. And I can't help but look at this and also know one thing, that bill already, it faces a very difficult climb up. Are you really going to be able to get 9 Republicans? We've only got 4 that have signed on right now. President Biden endorsing the bill, frankly, probably makes it more difficult because now they can say, oh, we're standing up against Biden's woke big government trying to regulate the railroad. And then same thing on Norfolk Southern. I mean, they're not even getting pressed on the stock buyback issue. It's like with the banks. I have zero confidence that any follow-on regulation will actually occur to stop this type of behavior and that will not transfer the increased FDIC fees to every single one of us. They will continue to operate not only business as usual, business is better because now the losses on your balance sheet are backstopped and guaranteed by the Fed. The increase in the rates, it doesn't affect them. It only affects you and I and our customers and the people who watch our show. Blue collar people out there getting fired right now because the Fed is raising rates and their companies can't afford to employ them. That's the nuts part. Only us, those who are merely not in the very, very top of the system, we're all the ones who get to pay the price for all of these big policies. But when they fail, they get to pay themselves bonuses. He appears before the Senate, quote, sounds like a politician. I mean, look, the fact that Guy still even has his job is crazy in this environment. Yeah. So I don't know. I feel just disgust on days like this.
The Fed piece is so critical to underscore because it really does reveal everything. They have had a stated overt policy at the Fed of crushing the labor market, increasing unemployment, and slowing wage gains, okay? Their explicit policy is to kill jobs. That is the policy of the interest rate hikes, which has not been very successful in terms of dealing with inflation, which is what we actually want them to deal with. But their explicit policy is we want to kill jobs here. But the minute there were concerns about job loss in Silicon Valley with these venture-backed companies, then they spring into action. It just shows you who matters, who they care about, and who doesn't. And the difference between the response with Norfolk Southern and with East Palestine versus the response in the banking system also shows you who counts, who matters, who they can marshal resources for, who they can leap into quick and agile action for, and who is facing a month down the road, can't even get a straight answer about tests, can't get real health care, and have no bailout on the way for them in terms of their homes and their businesses and any potential medical bills down the road. So it really is a disgraceful and revealing moment for our country about the way that all of this works. Hey guys, ready or not, 2024 is fully upon us now, and Saagar and I have been brainstorming ways that we can really up our game for this critical election.
Yeah, we rely on our premium subs to expand our coverage, to add staff, to upgrade the studio. We just want to give you the best independent coverage of this election, which is possible. So if you can help us out, become a premium subscriber today, breakingpoints.com, or the link is down here in the description video. It really means the world to us, and if you like what we're all about, this is the best possible way to keep us 100% independent, working only for you.